Hello everyone, Floppy Waffle 69 here. And for today's viewing entertainment, I figured we'd look at the Tier 10 IGN heavy cruiser, the Zhao. The Zhao is an old ship, right? It's been in the game since the very, very beginning. This ship, coupled with the Des Moines, was here, I believe it's what, 8 years, 9 years, somewhere around there, the game's been around. This is an old ship. So we're going to look at how she's changed and if she still stays, relatively competitive in the meta for nowadays, basically. This ship has gone through some changes from back then when stealth firing was a thing. They brought her back, nerfed her quite substantially with her HP pool and whatnot. But gradually over time, the ship has gotten a little bit of love. We got a little bit of an HP buff, and then now we got another HP buff. So now eventually we have torpedo tubes and gun firing angles are much better, which makes the ship a little bit easier and more comfortable to play. I feel like in everybody's hands, which is good. I think the ship needed to bring off the snuff. I think it was kind of getting left behind by a lot of other ships coming into the game, kind of doing better than what the Zhao did. Goliath, I'm looking at you, right? So yeah, so let's go take a little rundown of the Zhao. I'm just going to read off some important key factors here, a couple of her stats. I will take a look at her gameplay, and I'll give you my thoughts on her. So the Zhao's health's coming in at 44,900 with a torpedo protection of 19%, which is, I would say 44,900 is relatively on the lower side for cruisers at this tier. But again, it used to be around the 40,000 mark. So, I mean, we'll take it, right? That allows you one extra AP ricochet salvo or, penetrating salvo on you, right? So not bad. A little bit more flexibility. Detection of 12.22 kilometers, which is ranked 6th lowest. And it's ranked 12th with, if we added in those premium vessels at this tier. Side note of a 7.64 kilometer air detect. Her speed, 34.5 knots, 7th. And then we have 14th with premium ships enabled. Not bad. Not terrible, right? Definitely, it's respectable. That's going to allow you to disengage, get from flank A to flank B to flank C, support your teammates, stick with your destroyers, your fleet, etc. Do like that. Rudder shift is coming in at 7.7, which is the 4th lowest, and her turning circle radius is 840 meters, which is 26 with premium, 14th just on the tech tree ship. So her turning circle is a little on the sluggish side, in my opinion, but I don't feel like you really recognize that much if you build for it. So again, this cruiser, in my opinion, is agile. Not light cruiser agile, but definitely more agile for a heavy cruiser. So it's comfortable, right? It's going to be comfortable to play. You'll notice that when you play compared to that of other cruisers you have. Her main battery, 4x3, 203 millimeter guns, reloading in 13.7 seconds with a 180-degree turret traverse of 30 seconds, which is awesome. Good guns. A little on the longer reload for this tier, I would have to say. But definitely once you send shells down range, it's all going to be fun and games for you while it's all going to be fun and games for your enemy until they receive a HE salvo from you, knocking them for about 6 to 8k, which is 100% possible in this thing. Speaking of her HE shells, they're coming in for 3,400 damage with a 19% fire chance. That is awesome, with her HE DPN topping at 178,686, which is okay. It's not anything to write home about. So I would say it's probably on the lower side, right? But again, respectable, not terrible, but definitely not good compared to like Smolensk sitting at 380,000 or something like that, which is, again, crazy. An important fact to note about these guns, though, is that Sigma value of 2.05, coupled with a horizontal of 105 and her vertical at 58. That is super awesome. You're going to see a lot of tight shell groupings, very accurate. And it's going to, more often than not, you're going to have more shells strike the target as long as your aim is good and your lead is good. Again, that is a big user error thing here. If the captain's aim is up to snuff, familiar with these guns, how much they have to lead the target, where to aim, you're going to be landing a lot more shells than not. I would say majority of the shells are going to be landing on target, which is super, super awesome. Coupled with her secondaries, 6x2 100 millimeter guns. Now these are the same 100 millimeter guns found on the destroyer line, that alternate DD line with Akizuki, Kitakaze, and Haragumo. So these are going to have a 7.6 kilometer range with that 30 millimeters, or sorry, yeah, 30 millimeters of HE pen, which is awesome. That's going to be great. You're actually going to be able to pen it with a 6% fire chance. These are going to act as dual purpose mounts for your AA as well. Now, again, don't spec into secondaries. You're not going to get anything out of these secondaries. You're not going to be shooting at the levels of Haragumo and all that, but these are a good note that they will be able to pen 30 millimeters of armor, or effective armor. Torpedoes coming in at 4 times 5, 610 millimeter torps, range of about 12 kilometers, damage top end at 23,767 with a reload of 171. These are the upgraded torps Type 93s that the Shimakaze gets, the same 12 kilometers. Great torps. You do not start with these torps. You start with the 8 kilometer torps that are super, super fast. Well, it's 76 knots, super, super fast, probably like Holland level of 90s knots, which is absurd. But you drop that speed down to 76, but the pain is going to be there. You're not going to get that measly 10,000 and some change damage. This is going to be hard hitting torpedoes. So that's awesome. I definitely recommend getting that upgrade for the 12 kilometer torpedoes as soon as possible. That is upgradable, like I said. It's going to allow you a little bit more flexibility and breathing room to drop that, go ahead and drop those torpedoes, turn around, and then kite the opponent, which is sailing away and utilizing your guns and angling effectively, being a nuisance on a flank, right? That is where this ship is going to excel, and that is where this ship is going to shine. Her AA, 5.8 kilometers, coming in at 135 DPS. Her medium coming in at 3.5 km with 154 DPS. And her short range coming in at 2.5 with 128 DPS with, I believe it is a 5, is it 5 flak here? No, it is 6 flak, but that could be because of the upgrades. I don't know. I still have upgrades. I took the commander off. Upgrades are on this ship as a disclaimer. And then, we're going to look. I've already talked about her maneuverability. I've already talked about her concealment. So the Zhao is awesome. I think the ship is great. It's in a much better spot than it once was. Of course, it's not OG Zhao that, us oldies remember, but, the pain is there. It's a great ship. It's definitely, it's fun and it's great. It's a great pickup too. The recommended upgrades that I have for this ship is Spotting Aircraft Modification 1. Spotting aircraft, which is going to be found in that third slot, night and day, use the spotter. Don't use the fighter. The fighter is next to useless. Spotter is going to be your bread and butter on this ship. When it comes to that, making up for the range loss that you get, because I take the legendary modification. We'll get to that here in a little bit. So I'll probably go into speaking about the spotter plane here in a little bit anyways, just because I take the legendary mod. Second slot, I take engine room protection, self-explanatory. Aiming systems modification to increase my torpedo, my speed of my torpedo tubes traversing, and to obviously do that minus 7% of the main battery guns, which is huge and crucial, thus making those guns even more accurate. Steering gears modification 1, so I can kite and turn away on a dime. Concealment, bringing my concealment down to where it is, super, super low, like 9.9 kilometers. And then the legendary mod, the improved bridge, which is going to give me plus 8% main battery range, coupled with that minus 7 main battery shell dispersion. So in total, I'm getting minus 14% main shell dispersion value, which is awesome. I recommend the legendary mod on this thing. I'm going to say that right off the get-go. The legendary mod is a blast and is fun and is, I think, the way to play this ship. If you do not have the legendary mod, go ahead and for sure take the gunfire control system modification 2. This is going to extend that range somewhere in the high 18s, mid to high 18s kilometer range. It's going to be allowing you with these railguns to still reliably hit the target at range. I wouldn't recommend playing this thing at 18 kilometers per se, but every now and then I understand with kiting and the certain scenarios that you might find yourself in that situation, and this is going to allow you to do that. Plus, with the spotter plane, you're going to be able to reach out even further and land those salvos even more further at range with a 19 or whatever, so kilometer range. Going over the consumables, we have obviously standard damage control party. You have your hydroacoustic search or your defensive AA. Hydro, I think, is a no-brainer here. The AA is not worth speccing into, nor is it going to prevent a carrier from striking you. It's not that kind of ship, and especially nowadays with carriers, if a carrier wants you dead, you are going to die. So I think it's a waste of a slot utilizing and taking in defensive AA fire, where Hydro is going to be more universally accepted in most games because I think there's a higher chance of having torpedoes than having planes, right, with aircraft carriers. Obviously, I told you, fighter or spotter, go ahead and take that spotting aircraft, your repair party, and then the submarine surveillance radar, or submarine surveillance, excuse me, was added to this ship. I believe the Venezia and the Yodo line got it too. It's quite interesting to have this on a on this cruiser with the play style it is, given the fact that the Zao is not going to be pushing up to 7 kilometers usually and radaring a sub. I find like you're only going to use this in specific maps and situations, or if a sub is stupid enough to sail within that range of the Zao, that's when you're going to find this thing basically using this consumable. Um, Again, don't let this be a trap to you. This is only in certain situations, which you will see here in the gameplay. I believe I do use this early on in the game to catch a sub, but then again, the submarine not too smart with his positioning early game. Let's go ahead and recall our commander here, just so everyone can see the commander build that I run. The only difference that I would potentially make to this commander build is that I would either drop priority target and pick up incoming fire alert coupled with the gun feeder, or I would go ahead and take away last stand and just take gun feeder. I just feel that last stand, the reason I take and recommend last stand on this thing, as it is even a wargaming recommended skill, is this ship cannot lose its rudder. I mean, most cruisers can't, let's be honest, doing the circle to turning 360-degree circle of death. Sometimes control enemies. We've all seen that, but realistically, you don't want to be losing your rudder, and I can't afford to lose it when I'm kiting. So I want to make sure that my rudder, I'm still able to steer with my engine and gears incapacity. Basically, that's why I take it. Do take grease the gears, obvious reasons. Want to make sure I can turn my turrets when I kite, and it's easier for me. Demo expert, buffing the already phenomenal HE on this ship even further. Eye in the sky to make my spotter consumable going down by 50%, but getting more spotting consumables. Plus, with that spotter modification, making it last longer to kind of counteract, excuse me. Very comfortable playstyle. I do take priority target. I want to see how many targets are, looking at me per se. I already told you this is one skill that you could interchange as well and go for, but I happen to take it on mine. Superintendent, want to get an extra pop of all my consumables. Easy. Concealment expert. Yes, this ship relies on picking its engagements, and you're going to see that. When to shoot, when not to shoot. That is what this ship does, and it does well. I would say this is a marksman's dream, and the people who know the game at a more fundamental level and know who they're fighting are going to get more out of the Zao. I feel this thing has a high skill ceiling for a lot of players, and the potential is there to be an extremely good ship, but the commander or the captain has to be knowledgeable of certain situations. That's the caveat here. That's my opinion, but disagree with me as you will. I think the ship is not brain dead. Have you seen people play it brain dead? Absolutely. I think the more brain dead commanders are going to go towards the Yoshinos and the Azumas more so than they're going to go to the Zao. Okay. I take heavy AP shells. I am an opportunist. I don't just stick with the HE, even though that's probably most people are going to do, and it's more universal. I would say you're probably shooting HE 80% of the time, and AP maybe 20% of the time, and maybe even go 90-10. I'm not one of those players. I switch to AP a little bit more, and that's why not having gun feeder for me is kind of questionable. But I'm not going to change it. I just don't want to. I feel like I'm getting enough out of my Zao where this is a great captain build, and I don't want to go ahead and change that. And then obviously I take adrenaline rush. Every ship's going to take damage. If you don't take damage, well, you're probably not playing the game with your hands, or you're not even playing the game at all. You're probably not even loading in. So, anyways. So that is the Zao in a nutshell. And, I go ahead and take various flags. That's going to help my ship in certain situations. Yeah, I'll go take the AA flag. It's not going to do shit. But yeah, that is the Zao. That is the captain build and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and show you some gameplay on her with some pretty ass commentary. So let's go ahead and get into this game. Why don't we do it, eh? So anyways, here we are. We're loading into, what is this, hotspot here. In my Zao, and based upon the layout of my ship, or sorry, not the layout, but the spawning I figured, hey, let's go to this left flank here. Obviously, they look a little short with cruisers. And yeah, sorry about the Wi-Fi there, the lag. Like my apartment building has shit Wi-Fi, and I'm Ethernet cabled in, which is staggering. But I digress. So every now and then, if you see a pause, well, thank you AT&T. Two thumbs up to you. Anyways, we're choosing this flank for multiple reasons. Obviously, not only to have and to provide artillery support with my HE on a flank, but also I noticed the enemy submarines over here, and I also know one of my gimmicks is that submarine surveillance. So I am thinking, hey, if I can go over here potentially and catch this submarine with his pants down, you bet your ass I'm going to go ahead and do that. So just early loading in, seeing who's spawning on the enemy flank. Pretty scared of that Vermont, as I know any Vermont player that has half a frickin' brain will be able to nuke a ship. So I'm really gonna have to pick my engagements and when I choose to shoot and when I choose not to shoot. So obviously there's the enemy sub. I'm like, hey, here we go. I know he's on this flank, so I'm gonna try to catch that guy with his pants down and be aggressive. Would I recommend this all the time? Absolutely not. Anyone with a brain will know to shoot the Zhao because he is completely overextended. He will not be able to disengage very well. Not worth it. Not worth it to do this. But I am going to letting my team know what I'm thinking. They're probably thinking this guy's a freaking idiot, but who knows? But again, I'm not going to try to throw my ship away. If I need to tactically beat, I'll do that. Um, But yeah, that's my initial plan here is to sail in, maybe potentially catch that submarine, and again provide some artillery support. So detected from the submarine now, and I know that I have to be careful because I know that I have this Yoshino on my broadside. Hopefully he just sticks with the high explosive and doesn't switch to armor piercing because he only has 310 millimeter guns that could absolutely wreck me. But he said he's shooting over top of me, which you'll love to see. Send a couple shells downrange at him, get a fire, thank God. And then you're going to notice that too with this out. The HE is just unbelievable. I mean, from not only from the damage output that you're going to be able to do, but the fires, it's crazy. I think I'm getting with signals and captain skill, getting a 22% fire chance, which is freaking outstanding. Sending out the depth charges. I ended up detecting the guy with Hydro, which is great. Pretty ass depth charge airstrikes there. Didn't hit him right there, exactly where I wanted to, but now we pop our surveillance. Everyone's detecting him. Being conscientious, the Sherman's over here, being conscientious that the Zhao could come around and nuke me. That's why I'm switching to armor piercing, just because I'm kind of preparing that 2 or 3 moves ahead, knowing that, hey, this guy could be right here. I might have to be ready to pound him with my armor piercing. Again, keeping the submarine spotted. I don't know if my Montana is throwing airstrikes at all. Maybe he's a bot. I don't know. Who knows nowadays? People don't seem to like dropping subs for some reason. I don't know why. Again, with battleships not shooting destroyers as well, I mean, it doesn't surprise me at this point. So, and yet they're going to be the ones that complain the most, right, about subs. So, anyway, send them out while waiting to see if the Zhao is going to show me broadside here. Nice hit on the sub. But yeah, still not. Zal's still not showing me enough broadside. Now I'm taking fire from the Sherman, so I'm going to go ahead and try to disengage from this fight. I obviously am not, knowing to pick my spots, knowing that, hey, if I continue to shoot, not only am I going to get HE spam from the Zal, but the Sherman's going to have his way with me, and it's also going to allow the Vermont. There's the Wi-Fi again, right on. So also having that Vermont potentially nuke me from afar is just not part of the plan here. So. Just a little disclaimer here. This battle starts off a little slow. Thank God we end up picking that kill up on that sub. That's gonna help our team out hugely in the long run. Some rains are just like cruisers and destroyers. I feel like the later the battle goes, it's even more impact they have. But just as in total, I mean, submarines have massive amount of impact. So taking one out not only is going to allow my sub to have a little bit more leeway, but it's going to allow our destroyers to be able to grow up, spot, be a little bit more aggressive, and hopefully land some torpedo strikes, right? So, a side note there, I wanted to point out, unlike the Pommern video I did already, speaking about how you really can't rely on the torpedoes because the torpedoes are deck mounted, um, the the torpedoes in the Zao are actually inside the hull, so you're going to have a little bit more coverage to your torpedo tubes. So they're less likely to get incapacitated, which is super important. You want to make sure you have those torpedoes up, especially for certain situations. I mean, you're not going to be brawling in the Zao, but you're definitely going to want to be able to utilize those torps. Um, I find them more as a not only deterrence, but more of a hey, enemy ships are going to have to maneuver to dodge these, putting them in positions that maybe will allow my allies or myself to get that AP salvo into their broadside, or do a lot of damage, or putting themselves in a position where they don't want to be. So that's kind of how I utilize the torps. But yeah, they're definitely an asset. Make sure you utilize the asset. But then again, don't be that Zao player that just sails around and I gotta use my torps, right? You want to make sure that you play your game still with your artillery. You have 12 203s, okay? 12 203s that shoot frickin' laser beams. That is how you want to play the ship. You don't want to be utilizing your torps in every, beck and call. Just showing the juiciest amount of broadside, saying, basically painting a target right in the middle of your ship, saying, shoot me here, please. Donating my ship to the Goodwill so that you can take those HP points and add them to your grand total at the end and get me out of the fight. So be smart, know when to pick your spots, know when to torpedo. You don't have to torpedo. If you find yourself in a shit situation, go angle in, okay? Go nose in, reverse, disengage, sail away. There are other things you can do. Those torpedoes are definitely made for, like what I'm doing here. I torpedo, and then I start angling out or I sail away. Obviously, here I don't angle out because I know that there's no one in my detection. But yeah, that's what I would recommend. So that's the first tip I would recommend with the Zao. The second tip here is definitely aim for that superstructure, that juicy part that you're not only going to pen with your HE, but you're going to be able to absolutely nuke enemy battleships with that high explosive. So, but yeah, here we go. The Minotaur is kind of being a little bit aggressive here with that Yoshino right there. I'm not quite sure why he's doing that, especially given the fact that guy potentially could be slotting hydroacoustic search. It seems pretty questionable for me, especially because the Vermont's going to be sailing there, and the Thunderer is going to be sailing this way as well. It just putting himself in a crossfire. Does he have radar smoke? I don't even check before this game, so I don't even know. But now I'm turning my attention to the Thunderer, where this guy is coated in 32 millimeters of armor. So I'm licking my chops here. I was going to use the island, but obviously the spotter plane for the Vermont or the Yosh, can't remember, I can't see who it is spotting me. So I start accelerating, and of course what happens is spotter plane goes down, or someone shoots it down, and I could have stayed behind the island farming this guy. But I guess at the end of the day, too, it's not a bad idea that I come out, just because I now give him the option to, hey, don't shoot the Minotaur. I can now turn my attention to the Zao if I need to be. But obviously, when you're getting AP spammed from a fast-firing Minotaur, you're probably looking at his direction, let's be honest. And not a Zao that's at 15 kilometers, kiting you in my element. At this point, the Minotaur, yeah, is pretty much dead. Just because he's getting rushed and there's not much you can do. So again, I don't understand that decision. Maybe he thought he could be a little bit more aggressive and torpedo the guy before he came around, or whatever. Don't know. Spreading the love around with the fire. I knew I already had a couple fires on the Thunderer. I thought he was going to go down, so I shoot the Vermont here for a couple salvos, trying to light him up. Turns out the Thunder was able to disengage behind the island, so then I ripple fire. I don't shoot a full salvo because I know his momentum of sailing is going to still come past the island. So I want to make sure that, yeah, there we go, exactly. Land a fire on him. We relight him. Make sure, that's the big thing. Spreading the fires around, making sure battleships are burning. This line, in my opinion, is a line that really prioritizes battleships, I find. I don't know. That's just me. I love shooting battleships, and maybe it's because I'm so accurate with my high explosive that I know I'm going to be able to get juicy fires and damage on these massive floating piles of steel. I don't know, but that's just my opinion. Again, if a destroyer pops up, I'm going to shoot the destroyer. If there's a radar ship, I'm probably going to shoot the radar ship. But the Zao is definitely great at the HE farming. You know, basically farming simulator 2.0 here. Yeah, so I kind of noticed I'm sailing a little far out. I didn't want to turn in because I'm like at any given time the Vermont could just be waiting for me to start my turn in and then nuke me. So I wanted to try to see if I could get behind the island first before I made my turn, or before I fight a salvo. He's kind of getting behind that island. I fall off detection. I could turn in. So now I'm turning in. Good on the side note. Nice torpedo strike by our Shimakaze. That is huge, killing the Essex. And there we pick up the Witherer. That achievement should be to no surprise. That you're definitely going to be getting a lot of Witherers in this particular ship. I mean, all cruisers have a chance at doing that mostly, unless you're an AP only cruiser like the Mino or San Martin. But yeah, this ship is no stranger to the Wither achievement, with the amount of HE DPM plus the fires that it's launching out there constantly, right? So I'm noticing that our other flank collapsed too, utilizing the minimap to my advantage, seeing that the Salem and the Holland were last spotted on that flank, so they're most likely going to be coming through, either to A, find our carrier, or B, to flank us. So I need to make quick work of the Vermont, just so that I can start positioning my ship accordingly, basically, is what I was thinking here. You notice that skill right there I was utilizing, which was the single fire of each turret, and I was aiming my reticle with each salvo being fired. I'm trying to spread the fires around on his ship to ignite certain portions of his ship to burn him down quicker. You know, I see a lot of players, even when the ship, you know, they're already on, the ship's on fire, just still doing a full salvo, full send in the same area that they've been firing for the last minute. Um, Not a bad decision if you're just looking to chunk and get raw damage, but I find if I'm trying, especially the Zao, I don't want to just do that until I have about 2 fires on ships. That's also cruisers in general. That's not just inherent to the Zao, but that's kind of what I was thinking. So, anyways, I immediately start turning. Thank you, Wi-Fi. I immediately start turning my guns to the direction of the Holland and Salem, and sure enough, my aircraft carrier spots them. And I know that the Holland is definitely the bigger threat here, because the Essex planes are going to be taking a beating. But obviously the Salem pops up. He's making a beeline right for our Essex. I'm like, okay, I got to kill this guy. And we have an example of some very poor marksmanship on my end and very good maneuvering by the Salem, I feel, with either adjusting of his speed or using his rudder. Yeah, it's just, you could tell that the ship is so accurate of where you're shooting that if they maneuver and you don't aim properly, you know, anticipating these maneuvers, they're going to be able to dodge you. You know, you're not going to have that compensation shell that a lot of inaccurate cruisers or battleships have. These are you're going to miss your full salvo. Aircraft carrier ends up picking up the garbage there. If he wasn't going to do it, then I sure as hell was. Dropped my torpedoes earlier on for the Holland. I'm thinking, hey, maybe this guy's, you know, going to be a meathead and just sail right into these. They're going to come out of nowhere, kind of startle him. Maybe he's coming around to torpedo our Essex and he really can't turn back in time to land a torpedo. And we find ourselves, yep, there it is. That was a huge kill for us because now it makes down to a 2v2. Zao versus Zao, mano y mano. Okay. First thing I do, knowing that I have the aircraft carrier and it's capture the flag, I kite away. I immediately kite away. This gives me a distinct advantage in the engagement. This is going to allow me to utilize my torpedoes easier, and this is allowing me to get my turrets and turrets on target and dodge easier as well. Preemptively launching torpedoes where I think he's going to sail. I'm thinking I'm going to get him with a couple of HE salvos here that he's going to be forced to disengage from that island and reappear and think he's going to have me. But he ends up going the other direction. Sadly, our Holland ends up picking up our Essex because I don't know if our Essex decided to move at all, which, again, I get it. But also at the same time, I don't understand. We could have theoretically thought about that and planned accordingly. But anyways, so just, again, sticking with the HE. Making sure I land my salvos. Not necessarily looking for the best HE salvo, just making sure my grouping of my shell lands on his coning tower superstructure, that area. Not necessarily his coning tower, it shatters, but his superstructure. And I'm getting torpedo incapacitations, which is awesome. Now, I will commend my aircraft carrier here. The fighters are kind of mad because they only spot at 2 kilometers anyways, because they're like those improved interceptor fighters or whatever that the Essex has. But utilizing his torpedo skills, knowing he's going to pick his spot, popping, lighting up the Zao every now and then for me, because the Zao has shitty AA. which is allowing me to have an advantage, knowing that I can absolutely dummy this Zao with HE, which I'm doing, what, 3 to 6K salvos each on this Zao, which is awesome. And I'm not switching to armor piercing. And I know I do that. The one salvo previously I tried, but he seems to be angled very well, and my AP wouldn't be doing anything, where instead I'm going to get consistent damage out of my high explosive, which is what I was thinking here the entire time when I'm shooting him. So we relight another fire while making sure I swivel, do the dance shaky butt here, making sure that I'm able to dodge as much as I possibly can incoming fire. Being smart with my damage control as well. I've talked about this too. Only having one fire on my ship, I will let that burn. I have a heal. So what do? I pop my heal instead. I get that double fire. He ends up breaking one of my torpedo tubes. I immediately damage control that. There's no reason to keep the double fire lit. And my heal now is still healing up, which is great. Again, just consistently shooting, trying to dodge as much incoming fire as possible, be a hard target to shoot at. But it kind of looks like here that the engagement is coming to a close and we end up picking up the kill. I definitely thank the aircraft carrier for that. Thank you, Wi-Fi. I definitely thank the aircraft carrier for his spotting, and he still has his squadron up because he knows he's going to have to spot the Sherman for me. And I do the single launch, going off every particular maneuver that the Sherman could go to and go for it. And I end up striking down the target and hitting the Sherman. So all in all, just a great game. I think it highlights a lot of the strengths of the Zao, kind of shows a little bit of the weaknesses, but let's go over my final thoughts on the Zao for you guys here. So all in all, the Zao is a super fun ship. I believe she's in a much better spot than where she was, 2, 3, 4 years ago. And I realistically don't see Wargaming touching this ship anytime soon anymore. So I would definitely recommend her. It's definitely worth the grind, and it's not only a good line in total to learn the game, but once you've mastered the game, it is definitely going to be a blast playing this out. You're going to get great games in her, and it is super, super fun. So anyways, hope you all enjoyed the video. Remember to like and subscribe, and catch you all next time. Peace.